On this episode of Nobody's Home, there are heroes, giants, villains, wizards, and true love. We're taking a look at 1987's The Princess Bride. Let's get into it.
Okay, J.A.
Welcome back to Nobody's Home on the Cheap Seats Network. My name is Chase Brown, and here's always Evan Hoffman. How you doing today, fella?
Chase, I'm doing good, my friend. Actually, you know what? No, I'm doing great because it's the season of love. It's the season of flowers and chocolates and commercialism and
Sure.
everything that comes along. That's right, we're talking about Valentine's Day. And what better movie that fits into our categories of movies involving wrestlers than the classic love story, The Princess Bride.
It's a story of love, a tale of adventure. It's as real as the feelings you feel.
We're kissing again.
Someday you may not mind so much.
The Princess Bride. Not just your basic, average, everyday, ordinary, run-of-the-mill, ho-hum fairy tale.
The Princess Bride was directed by Rob Reiner and was written by William Goldman based on his novel of the same name, Evan. They teamed up for this movie. I think this was a movie that took a while to get made, but they finally got it made, and it's got a stacked cast. We got Carrey Elwes, we got Mandy Patinkin, Robin Wright, Christopher Guest. It's a big cast, Evan. It's a big cast.
Absolutely. And Chase, fitting with our theme, playing that giant that you spoke of, maybe an NBA player could play him. But in this movie, he was played by none other than Andre the Giant. And for those who aren't familiar with Andre the Giant, in the wrestling industry, one of the biggest stars of all time. I don't think there's any doubt about that. He, at WrestleMania 3, he took on Hulk Hogan in the main event. Hulk Hogan body slammed him for the first time ever. One of the most watched main events, wrestling shows, period. It was truly iconic. Andre the Giant was genuinely a giant when it comes to the wrestling industry. And from, stories that people have heard about the guy, he lived a pretty tortured life. There's a really good documentary, I believe, on HBO about Andre the Giant. And if you haven't watched it, sincerely, give it a watch because he seemed like a genuinely very kind-hearted individual who was just suffering from a lot of things as his life went on. And yeah, he's truly, and if you watch this movie, ladies and gentlemen, he's that big. It's not just special effects, nothing like that. Andre the Giant, I believe by the time he passed away was upwards of 7'6", 7'7", Chase, if I'm not mistaken.
That sounds accurate, yes.
Yeah, so but truthfully, this movie, like you said, my first time seeing it, and we'll get into it more, but just off of the bat, I absolutely adored The Princess Bride. And you know what? I know I've said this. I'm a very positive guy if you guys have watched these reviews. I like a lot of the movies we watch. I just like things in general.
Sure.
But for
Nothing wrong with liking things, right?
yeah, for what the role that Andre the Giant, for talking him specifically, called for,
Sure.
I thought he was absolutely fan-freaking-tastic.
Yeah, I mean, this whole movie, man, I think that it's just like a perfect blend of those things. Because, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, this was a movie that took a while for it to get made. It was in developmental hell. But once it got made, it seemed like these perfect pieces really went together. And you had this cast that sort of, just fell into the right place at the right time. I mean, you talk about Andre the Giant. This was a guy that was in pain while making this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, that we saw through that Andre the Giant documentary, and just know that this wasn't the easiest for him to make because it was really tough on his body. A lot of things were tough on his body for throughout his career and throughout his life, but especially in the late '80s, it really got to a point where unfortunately, Andre just started deteriorating. But this is a movie that he was able to be in. He was able to shine in, be so funny, just such a great
hilarious
presence. And it was really great to see him in this movie. And I'm surprised we haven't done this sooner, but I'm glad this follows right down here in Love Month because I got a lot of love for Andre the Giant.
Yeah, man. And you talk about, development hell and everything. And I've heard that stuff about the movie as well. But you can tell throughout this entire movie the care, the genuine care that was put into it. And one of the words that you might hear me say when I'm describing this movie is simple. And when I say simple, I don't mean that in a bad way whatsoever.
As you wish.
Oh, my sweet Wesley, what have I done?
A lot in our modern day movie watching, you see movies try to basically save the world, save someone's life, and there's just huge stakes the entire time.
Right.
But this movie felt so grounded. It felt so realistic in the weirdest ways, to be honest with you.
Right.
It felt just that they were telling a simple love story. I mean, the whole movie is a grandpa reading to his sick grandson a book, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole premise of the movie.
Yeah.
And you could just tell that the care that was put into anything from the writing of the script to the set design to not only within that writing, but the humor in this movie was I was laughing out loud watching this movie by myself, just because there was so much wit, so much just genuine comedy that developed from the characters.
Sure.
And the movie's only about an hour and a half long. So it's really not that long of a movie. And that's another thing that I love about it is, like I said, when I say simple, I don't mean that in any bad way at all. I just mean that they knew what they were trying to make, and they succeeded, bar none, in making that film. And that is just a classic love story that's comedic. Anyone can sit down and watch it. Anyone can laugh at it, and anyone is gonna get a good feeling from what that's. It's just such a charming movie, Chase. Such a charming film.
Yeah, I can't help but to agree with you. I mean, you really said it there. I think that this movie it's all of those things you said, and even more. I think that this movie I think that a perfect movie clocks in anywhere like around like an hour and 40 minutes, which this movie like follows right in line with. This is a movie that tells its story quickly, it tells it neatly, and it doesn't leave things up for interpretation anymore, which I tend to appreciate sometimes in movies. I like being able to dive in there and think, well, did the top stop spinning or did the top continue to spin? I don't know what's going on. But this is a movie that, you're right, the simple premise is there's a boy in Chicago who's sick, and his grandfather is coming over around the holidays to read him a kissing book that his father read him, that he read his father, and that his father read him. It's just that neat, it's just that tight. And once we get into the world, we don't stay in that world, which I think is nice that we get to come back. And when the young boy, played by Fred Savage, has things that he's asking about, like, is this a kissing book? Or when does he got to die? Or his grandpa just stopping, like, the eels don't get the girl. I could see you're nervous. Things like that. It keeps going, and we keep going in and out of these worlds that it's just so fun to bounce back and forth between that bedroom and between, that world. It's such a fantastic directed by Rob Reiner there, who's made plenty of great movies. American President being one of my favorite of his. William Goldman doing a lot of great writing himself. I mean, he wrote the novels, so he knows the material. And I think they came together, man, and they did it together, and it really works out, and you could tell in the execution of the movie.
Absolutely, Chase. And just breaking this down even more, the characters, right?
Yeah.
And I know I've heard of, Inigo Montoya. I've heard of these different characters before. I knew Andre the Giant was in this movie. I've seen clips of Wallace Shawn's character from this movie. I've seen a lot of different clips from it.
Yeah.
And it was so surprising to me that I've heard people talk about this movie, right? I've heard people talk about how good The Princess Bride is, how funny it is, and people claiming it's one of their favorite movies. And when I watched it, like how I said, it was simple. It's only an hour and a half. But those characters, they stick with you.
They do.
I mean, that whole final scene of Inigo Montoya going to kill the six-fingered man, right? Like, and his hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. I have heard that and seen that parodied in so many different things.
Right.
Like, genuinely, and I didn't know what it was ever from. And in this movie, like it's just one scene. It's just one part of it, right?
Mm.
And I just, again, I was so charmed this entire watching experience. I was laughing, and like you said, Chase, they knew what they wanted to do with this movie, right? It was a simple love story, but how could they really get the audience engaged? And I
Right.
truthfully think, just, I know I'm going to harp back on it, it's the humor. And
Mhm.
I truthfully, this humor holds up today.
Yeah.
It truthfully does. Anyone can watch. There isn't really pop culture references or anything like that. Like, there is a whole scene, and
It's a timeless movie.
correct, exactly. It is absolutely timeless. There's a scene in the movie where they're going to revive William's character, and it's Billy Crystal is playing this magical healer. I didn't know it was Billy Crystal.
Miracle Max.
I recognized the voice that he had, right? And genuinely, the whole scene, I was just laughing. I don't know why. The whole scene, I was laughing.
I know exactly why. There's actually on IMDb trivia, there's a section that talks about how Rob Reiner had to leave the set while Billy Crystal was doing his scenes because there was just gut busting laughter that the man could not control. I mean, Billy Crystal, I mean, obviously he linked up with him again a couple of years later for When Harry Met Sally. These guys have this really great relationship with, and Billy Crystal, I saw my first Billy Crystal movie like not last year, which was When Harry Met Sally. I watched a movie for the first time last year, and since then I've seen movies like Running Scared and Who Threw Mama from the Train, things like that. Other things Billy Crystal's popped up in, but like his led movies, but it's just, he's such an amazing actor, and him coming in there for a few minute scene like that can absolutely steal a movie like this.
Absolutely, Chase. And I could just, off the top of my head, I've watched the movie one time, and I can already say the entire first scene where they capture the princess and Andre the Giant and Inigo start rhyming, and like they just annoys the crap out of Wallace Shawn's character. I remember that. I remember William's character climbing up the rope.
Anybody want a peanut?
Yeah, that ending line. He goes, ah! He's climbing up the wall, and that whole fight scene, right? When he uses his left hand, he's like, "Oh, I'm lying. I'm actually not left-handed." And then William's character comes back and says, "Oh, neither am I," and I was lying too. Like, there's, and then his, I if you don't mind, I want to read this directly because I literally got such a crack out of this one.
Go for it.
Wallace Shawn's character here says to Andre the Giant, who's Physique. Am I sorry? Is that his name? Fezzik, yes, you're correct. He says, finish him your way. He says, oh, good, my way. Thank you, Vizzini. What's my way? Pick up one of those rocks, get a boulder. In a few minutes, the man in black will come running around the bend. The minute his head is in view, hit him with the rock. He goes,
my way is not a sportsman like.
And then when that fight scene ensues, and he just is throwing rocks at him, and he says, we're gonna fight like men, no weapons, nothing. And he goes, so you can kill me now, and he just throws a rock by his head. And it's just like the comedy that Andre the frickin' Giant brought to this. I thought he could barely speak English from my watchings of him in wrestling, but he is so funny in this movie. Like, generally everything the dude does is gold. Everything Inigo does is frickin' gold. Chase, genuinely, I was just so charmed and into this movie, start to finish. It's one of those movies that you can sit down, you can watch with your girlfriend, a family member, just your friends. You just grab some popcorn and just get ready, because you're just going to be into it. It's an hour and a half, like we've been saying. You're going to be into it from start to finish. Simple story, knows what it's doing. And I really couldn't be more complimentary of this movie. I was genuinely, like, I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, yay, the kiss at the end. But, like, I was genuinely happy when everyone made it, like, you know, spoiler alert. I mean, it's a review, so what do you expect? But when everyone made it out of this movie alive and, you know, with the missions accomplished and everything. And, you know, again, I have heard this about this movie from a lot of different people. My parents have watched this movie, told me to watch this movie.
True.
And I can see why. I generally can see it's just one of those that sticks with you. It truthfully is.
I mean, Evan, The Princess Bride is the definition of a feel-good movie. It's one of those movies that, like you said already, it sticks with you. You remember, you want to watch, you want to rewatch, you want to share with people. The Princess Bride is such a special movie, and I think it will carry on and have that because of its timelessness, because it doesn't really, hunker itself down into a period where people aren't willing to watch. And the most stated thing about it is that the game Fred Savage is playing at the beginning of the movie on his joystick. That's the most dated thing about the movie that people probably won't understand. But other than that, Evan, this movie is going to carry on, I think, for a really long time because of its comedy, because of the love in the movie, the genuine more stuff from IMDb. Carrey Elwes and Robin Wright were supposedly way into each other. He was way into her at least. And during this movie shoots, it was easy for them to have that chemistry that they obviously do. It's such a good movie, and it's so well done. And all these people, whether it be earlier in their careers, like a Robin Wright, who went on to do all that great stuff that we know for afterwards, like Forrest Gump and etc. And then other, people who had these storied careers before that are just picking them up and continuing them. It's a real testament to, I think, being in the right place at the right time. Not having too many cooks in the kitchen, having the exact right amount of cooks in the kitchen, and just getting the damn job done. And The Princess Bride is your example of one of those movies that can just do it and pulls it together.
Absolutely. And again, one of the biggest compliments that I can give is that it's simple. And that and in today's day in movie making and movie watching, as we would like to do sometimes, I appreciate when a movie is able to do that so much. I appreciate when a movie is able to suck you into its world and you are just engaged in the story that they are telling. Because just like Fred Savage's little kid's character, he begins like, "Oh, is this a kissing? Is this a kissing book?" And then by the end, he's like, "Oh, well, no, you can keep reading, Grandpa. It's okay. You can go." And then by the end, he's like, "You want to come back tomorrow and read me that story again?"
Yes.
And that's how I feel about The Princess Bride. I want to come back and I want to watch this again. And truthfully, just after watching this, I started watching Lord of the Rings just because I was so into the medieval vibe to it.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It just got me hooked in. And I was like, you know what? I want to keep this going. Not going back to Game of Thrones after, because I know what the end of that is. But at the same time, this movie again, just it captured my heart, Chase. It really did. It's so charming. I can't help but smile thinking about the scenes in the movie. I might not even be doing it justice with my explanation here, but at the same time, I don't care. I love this movie.
Yeah, Evan, it's an easy movie to love. I'm glad you watched it here, and I think this is going to be a movie that may be an appointment watch for you. This may be something that you watch every year, maybe more than once a year. I think this is a movie that falls right in line for that with you. But I completely agree about everything you're saying. It's a really special movie, and I think that you can't help but to love it. You really can't help but to love The Princess Bride, Evan.
Absolutely, Chase. And if we're going into scores, you want to do our scores?
Let's go ahead and do it, man. Let me know. What are you giving The Princess Bride out of 5 seats?
Chase, I'm giving The Princess Bride 5 out of 5 seats, my friend. I am telling you, ladies and gentlemen, please, if you haven't seen this movie, and it's just so charming. It's just so endearing. The characters are so memorable. The lines, the dialogue is so witty. It's so funny. Chase, this is literally my favorite kind of movie. I was hooked start to finish. It has a quality to it you just want to endear yourself to. 5 out of 5 seats for me. I won't say it's a perfect movie because I know I gave it a perfect score, but for me, this is about just as perfect of a movie as you can get.
Evan, you're really into this. You're really hyped up about this. You really feel good about this. I'm going to give my score an extra 0.25 points, and I'm going to give it a 4.25 for The Princess Bride. This movie is phenomenal. This is a movie that you recommend to anybody. This is a movie that you really say to anybody, hey, have you seen this movie? Watch it. Or have you seen this movie recently? Go ahead and watch it. Because The Princess Bride is that special movie that you just want to talk about, you just want to get into, you just want to deep dive and talk about, and we did that today, Evan.
Yeah, absolutely. And it could be the love in my heart. Maybe I revisit this movie and it goes down a little bit on my ranking. It could. But right now, in this current environment, with everything that's been going on the last year, it was really nice and really good to just sit down and watch a good old comedic classic love story. And I'm sticking with my 5 out of 5.
Absolutely, and never sway, never sway.
Nope.
So, Evan, is this your first 5 out of 5? Have you given another one of our movies a 5 out of 5 yet?
I'm not sure. I might have.
Okay.
I might have. I think I definitely went up to like 4.75, 4.5
I think
for
so.
some of the movies that we've watched.
Yeah.
But no, this one I would say is my favorite of the movies that we've watched so far.
Okay, very good.
Yeah,
Very
the
good.
Wrestler's up there. I really like the Wrestler, but the Princess Bride, it just hit me right in my little soft Evan heart.
Well, don't your little soft Evan Hart go quitting, because we've got plenty more movies coming up for you. If you guys want to talk to us about how you feel about The Princess Bride, please come to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/plenty of seats, or you can hit us up on Instagram, on Twitter, any of those things. We'll be talking about The Princess Bride, posting clips from this, telling you guys how we feel. You can tell us how many seats you would give it. How many seats you would give The Princess Bride if you watched it recently. What stands out to you in the movie? I'm sure there's some things we forgot to talk about that we'll be banging ourselves over the head for later on.
Absolutely.
But hey, we'll continue the conversation. Link up with us. We got a lot of cool other stuff coming in the woodwork as well, and I'm excited to get into all of those things too.
Yeah, and again, and this is another reason why I love doing this stuff, Chase, is because we get to really take a deep dive into individual movies.
Yeah.
Break them down on a pretty, I don't want to say molecular level. We're not like film critics or anything like that, but there's interesting stories to be told with every movie, and there's characters behind those characters, and Andre the Giant just happens to be one of my favorite people to really study and look into. And I'm just excited to do more on Nobody's Home here, Chase. Do we have anything coming up? Is there anything that we're looking forward to next couple weeks?
Absolutely, Evan. We have tons to look forward to. There's always things to look forward to here on the Cheap Seats Network, but specifically for Nobody's Home, we are watching a movie that deals with let's say a future superstar in the wrestling world. We're taking a look at Like Mike, 2002's Like Mike, starring Bow Wow. Evan, there's been a lot of rumblings on the internet the past couple of days from Bow Wow himself and other stars, specifically in the WWE, who have been talking about getting him into the professional wrestling ring. Evan, that's certainly something I want to see. Maybe we can get Bow Wow on the program to talk about it. Let's reach out, Evan. We might as well, right?
Seriously. And yeah, Bow Wow himself has started this, said he's going to work on a new album. And then after that, he really wants to focus on following his dream and actually becoming a WWE superstar.
Yeah.
And he had a lot of responses from a lot of different wrestlers that came out. And recently with the genuine commercial, and I would say critical success of Bad Bunny in the wrestling industry, I think that door is more wide open than ever to have that crossover star come in and see what they can do in the ring. We've had Pat McAfee, in NXT do his things, a former NFL wrestler, genuinely look incredible. I think it's just more accessible than ever. And I think that wrestling is something that maybe will never be in the mainstream, but to a lot of different people, hell, Cardi B said she was a huge fan back in the day.
Absolutely.
She dropped wrestling's name in there, and apparently Bow Wow is too. So yeah, I would love him have him on the program. Hear about maybe his favorite matches in the past and what makes him want to become a wrestler. But I'm also very excited to watch Like Mike. It's been a minute and a half, let me tell you. But I remember I watched that movie probably 15 times over as a kid.
Yeah, Evan, Like Mike is a big movie for me as well. It came out in the year 2002. I saw it in the summer when it came out. In New York, when I was visiting my grandparents, I went and saw Like Mike in theaters. And as we were coming out, there was a man who was in the theater, I think probably the show before, who was selling DVD copies of Like Mike already. Shout out to New York City bootleggers. We bought a copy immediately because I pressured everybody. I said, listen, that movie was fantastic. We're buying the bootleg copy of it. We're going home and we're showing everybody who didn't come to the movies. Shout out to Like Mike. True story.
Seriously,
True story.
it's a. I always love when we are able to either, I've never seen The Princess Bride. I know I've seen Like Mike, but I haven't seen it in a long time.
Sure.
So, will it hold up? I don't know. I haven't seen it in a bit. So I guess we'll find out next time here on Nobody's Home.
Absolutely, Evan. And you guys, make sure you join us for that. We've got a lot going on here for Nobody's Home, a lot going on in the Cheap Seats movie trivia, as always, and some more things cooking up that you guys don't know about just yet, but the curtain will fall and you'll be able to see all of the nice things that we're working on. But for now, guys, make sure you're tuning in on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/the Cheap Seats. Or I'm sorry, Plenty of Seats is the black sash. Plenty of Seats. And make sure you're checking us out there. Make sure you're going all over to the audios and listen to us there and telling your people, hey, I know these guys. They have good material. Go listen to them.
Absolutely, guys. We do this because we just love talking to each other. We're big blabbermouths. We're good friends.
Yeah, that's true.
We just want to, spread some of the love. And we got, like Chase said, we got a bunch of stuff coming out. So now is the time to jump on the train. You don't want to be a bandwagoner. You don't want to be that. So when we're taking off and we got millions of subscribers, better be ready.
Right.
Better be on that train first.
We're coming for you. We're coming for you guys. I don't know who's the top YouTuber right now. Who's like the number one?
PewDiePie.
Is PewDiePie number one right now still?
Sure, yeah.
All right, we're coming for you, PewDiePie. Get racked, bro. But as always, thank you for tuning in and thank you for joining us here. And if you're looking for somewhere to go, join us in the Cheap Seats. There's plenty of room. Have a good night, everybody.